Hello, it's me, Ingrid the INFP, and I wanted to talk about how the functions manifest in me and in INFPs. And I thought I'd start with the last function, well, the fourth function, the inferior function, and go up towards the top. Because maybe the inferior function is what we don't think about much when we think of INFPs. So, and those are the things that we need to develop the most. So, in a way, that might be the most important. They are the most subconscious or unconscious, and it takes effort to work with these functions if they're not what you primarily use. So, for INFPs, it's T E, like extrovert, and it means organizing the outside world or things or society, or like maybe not society, but external structures. So the way it does that is by being very cold and rational, because it's a thinking function, and it doesn't care about people. It cares about getting things done, getting things into the real world, producing stuff, getting results. Being an INFP in medical school and now in residency means that you have to use TE a fair bit more than INFPs in more like flexible or creative jobs, since you need to follow guidelines, you need to produce things, and that's why TE is important, because TE is the function that's best at this kind of stuff. So what we INFPs, it goes against our nature to work with this, but we know that we need to do this because otherwise we can't like live in the society that we live in. So we are forced to develop this thing, and I think that as INFPs we need, as opposed to some other types, we're forced to use our inferior function more than some other types, which can be both good and bad. It means that we might be growing more since we're trying to develop our inferior functions, but it also can mean that we're not realizing our true potential, our true strengths, which are an FI and an E. So there are different theories around that. I'm not going to get into that because I'm not an expert in the MBTI theory. I just find it fun. So TE. I use a lot of TE a lot in my life, but I don't like using it because it's not something that I find fun or valuable. I just do it because I have to. And you can't just go around in life and just use FI and NE all the time, because like you'd be a super unpractical person, which I am. So sometimes you need to do practical stuff anyway. So as opposed to high TE users, INFPs tend to be pretty not organized and be pretty all over the place and not stick to one thing. And that's where TE helps you to get something done and organize lists and tidy your room and do your chores and think about more outside of just your own world and thinking about like how can I aid society. which might seem a little bit like FE, but it's actually just FI and T working together. Like, how do I get my values out into the world? So TE helps you concretize stuff that you have in your head, and like you wish that your ideal, perfect, dreamy INFP world could be true outside, but it's not. So at its best, an INFP can use TE to be able to create something meaningful at large. For most of us unrealized INFPs, TE is just like there to like kick us in the butt, to like say that we're not being useful or organized enough to manage in the real world. So we kind of get mad at ourselves because we want to be able to do this. At the same time, we don't want to be able to do this because it's not like something that we value. And we wish that we were good at TE without having to feel bad about it, you know, because TE is very cold and sometimes it's very blunt, it's very honest. It's just, these are the facts and this is what we need to do. According to my INFJ friend, this really helps him out when I give advice to him, because he's always looking into like the deeper meanings of stuff, while TE is very like yes or no, or like trying to find solutions, trying to just strip away all of the crazy abstract stuff and like all of this overthinking and all of this feelings and all that, and just get to the point. So getting to the point is what he is very good at, and I can use it in order to help other people to realize that what they're doing maybe doesn't make much sense, and to get sense. So TE can be very useful in that sense. And since we're NFPs, we can temper the T to make it like sound nice, which like T dominant users can struggle with. So that helps a lot. Using TE helps us figure out boundaries, which a lot of FE users have a harder time with. The FI-TE axis is good for knowing what is you and what is others, because your feelings are you, while the thoughts are others. The thoughts are external. So while for an INFJ, for example, the TI is internal, so they are more likely to identify with their thoughts, while INFPs are more likely to relate to their feelings and leave the thoughts to others or to the group. INFPs think a lot about like themselves as other to the group and or like the world. Like since we're NFs, we are kind of in our own bubble, and we think, and we are very aware of that distance between our touchy-feely self, our sensitive little world, our little bubble, and how society thinks. And it's really hard to know that society thinks a certain way about things and might dislike anything that has to do with the INFP. An INFP dislikes everything that has to do with society. So we have this ambivalence inside us that we're like, we want so badly to fit in to the TE world, but it hurts so much to have to do that. And like, we should embrace being ourselves while at the same time being able to survive in this TE world. And that's going to be the continual struggle of the INFP. And that is what we keep struggling with every day, to like survive, to be able to organize our lives, to find a role that works in society, while at the same time being able to keep the FI integrity that like makes us us. And that is kind of our purpose in life. I'm getting emotional just like thinking about this. But it's hard because we're so aware that society thinks certain things, and we can't fit that standard. T is very much into standards, like standardized stuff, standardized testing, filling in boxes, filling in criteria, getting to the point. And FI is much more like flexible, one-on-one stuff. And it's hard to mesh those two things together. But T has its uses. It's very nice to be able to have like black and white stuff, to be able to make decisions. Sometimes INFPs can go too far into that and think too black and white about stuff because they haven't explored other options through their NE, and they just go through one path because that's what they think either they want or that society wants. And it can lead to INFPs being really opinionated about stuff and very mad and aggressive if they don't balance out their functions. TE is also very useful for leadership, because leadership roles are need TE, or at least some kind of T or FE, in order to like see how other people work and how they can reach a goal together. INFPs are pretty bad at like sensing group dynamics, because we are very aware about like how we feel, but it's very hard for us to see how other people think about stuff. We don't have FE. And high TE users can read a room much better than what we can, because they have TE and can like see which people fit with which roles better than what we can. So when we have to lead, we have to lead through FI, like, and that's very scary because the other people and everything else is like a real unknown to us. So we're just like completely going blindly into it. So that's where sometimes you wish that you had higher TE or FE or something like that, to be able to understand how other people think of you, or know how you can relate to the world. It's hard to relate to the world when you're an FI dominant, because you know yourself, but you don't know where your place is within the world. Yeah. Otherwise, TE is very action oriented, and INFPs are not action oriented. We just like to relax and like daydream all day. So TE forces us to like take action to do stuff, which is rare, but sometimes you have to do it. It helps us with big decisions, like writing pros and cons lists, that kind of thing. In the end, we might not like actually look at the pros and cons list. We might just go with our feeling instead. But just having the fact that the process of making the to-do list or the list or the pros and cons list subconsciously, I think, helps us make the decisions in the end. So that's a good function to have. Also, it helps us with if we have to do our chores, and it helps us just like get to the point. We also want to be very useful, which a lot of other intuitive types might like think. A lot of types might think that we're just in the clouds daydreaming all day, and that we don't have any goals for ourselves, or that we don't want to, or they don't see that there is a practicality in the INFP's way of thinking, which comes from that inferior TE that we often are forced to develop from a pretty young age, even though it's not our natural preferences. We do want to make good decisions, and we do want to make logical decisions that make sense. We're just not very good at like actually making these things reality. T users are really ambitious. They want to get somewhere, and they'll do anything that needs to get there. INFPs are much more like exploring, not really set on one path, and they are very much procrastinators and don't want to do anything. So T sometimes like needs to kick us in the butt to like say, go, you need to fight, you know? So we do have that fighter there, but we need to like wake him up sometimes. And that's what T is to us. So yeah, that's what I had to say about TE. Tell me what you think. I'll be doing one of these for each of the functions. So next one is SI. We go up the ladder rather than down the ladder. We do things a different way as INFPs. Have a nice day.